Hey everybody, we're here at the HighEdWeb Michigan 2015 conference held at Wayne State University in the McGregor Conference Center, which just a few days ago was named into the National Historic Landmarks registry. So really honored to be here with Nick DeNardis from Wayne State's Web Communications.
Well, thanks for having me on, and I'm excited.
Well, let's get right into it. So tell us about, just in general, the relationship that you've got to the higher ed web scene.
Oh, it goes back a while. I think that I can't remember the first event that I got involved with, but I've been in higher ed and working on the web for about 11 years now, and always kind of been involved with like local meetups and stuff like that. And so it just kind of was a natural progression out to the extended social media scene is really where it came out. And there's a really active higher ed web kind of social scene. I'm basically on Twitter, and there are a bunch of topics, and higher ed as a community likes to share information. I know like that's not the same type of effect in other industries, but higher ed, we're kind of not directly competing for the same students, and the web is a struggle, and so it's just like, let's all get together.
So when you look, one of the things from being in pseudo academia, we both were in library school, so, so like in the library world, even if you're not a professor or whatever, there's still like a tenure track in a lot of places. Is that a concern for many people in the web scene as well, or?
What so like for like staff member, web staff members?
Yeah.
Well, I guess from what I've seen overall, just in general, I feel like, there are people who have a specific niche, like they work on front end or content strategy, or they've done IT. They went from IT to front end, or like more marketing web services, and they kind of fill that gap, and they'll go from institution to institution, as they get more senior. Not a lot of people stay at the same institution for a while. I don't know why that trend is. I think maybe because there's a lot of, I don't want to say bureaucracy in the higher ed web space, but it's an interesting thing that used to be very decentralized, that has been a struggle, I think, at most all institutions to become more centralized. The trend is going that way, but some institutions just push back harder than others.
All right, so this is a line of questioning. So the first one. So there's a really famous XKCD about college web, university websites.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not probably in one of the presentation slides here.
It's bound, so I guess I'm curious, is that still like a pretty solid standard, or is that a cliche? Have people really embraced it in the community?
They have, but getting that into production is a whole nother story. And so, there's always the ideal, right? The ideal homepage is to service the users, and for teams that have, for institutions that actually have teams, a lot of institutions still only have a single web person, a team of one. And so for teams that are lucky enough to have a UX type of role, or somebody who's actually looking at analytics or doing some sort of user studies or something, they're looking at that, making the experience just like that, the comic as much as possible. But there's always the pushback to get all the links on the page, and make sure that everybody's happy internally without going directly to the user source.
There's a law of software development that says if you create a software product, that it will reflect the organizational structure so the software structure mimics it. I forget what it is, but it kind of came to me when you were saying that about getting everybody onto the front page. So speaking of front pages, for quite some time you had been doing the EDU checkups.
Yes.
And is it an ongoing?
No, it is not. So I actually I forgot what reminded me of it, like maybe 2 weeks ago, but I did that for 3 years, over 300 episodes, like twice a week, and it was a lot of fun. And I looked back and I haven't done one in 3 years, so it's like it's crazy how fast time flies. But I still am involved with doing those types of audits, just not like publicly, like they have been. And so.
So did you, besides the insights of the comic, what would you say would be like the one thing that you'd say, make sure you've got that on your homepage, make sure that
search box. Yeah, number one, it's on from our stats. I know it really points to internal users, but you'd be surprised of how the percentage of users who go from your homepage right to your search box, and it has nothing to do with how well designed or poorly designed your site is, or how well architected your site is, or poorly architected. People are just trained to go to the search and get just type in whatever they want and they're expecting a result that they would with Google, and so you got to get that right.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And there seem to be classes of users there. You've got your searchers and your browsers,
yep.
And you've got your foraging type behavior. So
totally
cool. So okay, we've got XKCD, we got the checkups. All right. So the other thing that I know Nick from is the web communications blog from Wayne.
Yeah.
And every time that I read one of your posts, I'm like, I do not understand how you guys get so much done. So give us if you have anything that's not totally secret, what's the productivity?
So the productivity secret really is that we don't ask a lot for like, hey, can we start this project or can we do this thing? We just do it, and then it just comes about, and we use the blog and we communicate internally to sell the benefit of it purely from almost like marketing our own services. And so in the beginning, that kind of got us to the point where we were able to internally understand why we were doing a project or how we were impacting the end user. Mm-hmm. But then that led right into how to explain that to others. And then as we did that for small things, obviously, in the beginning, it gained trust throughout our user base across campus. And so when they, as you mentioned, see something that we've done, they're like, wow, I'm glad they did that, and they're thinking about it, and so it's really allowed us to be a little bit more hands-off than, some of what I've seen as micromanaged teams out there. So there's not a productivity secret. The secret really is that we have gone as a team through, two things. Number one is our team has been growing over 10 years, and so we started with 3 people, now we're at about 10, but we've all grown into our full-time roles from students or part-time something, and so we've grown up together, and so we almost act like a family internally. We go through different, let's try using this tool, that didn't work out, we know that in a week, and so we're very flexible and we communicate a lot as a team, and I think that yields itself to being as efficient as possible.
So it sounds like it's a really nimble system. Have you embraced any sort of formalized the agile sprints and all the fun stuff?
Yeah, so technically we do sprints, but we don't. So my team really likes the structure around a dedicated amount of work with a dedicated amount of time and stories that are really well defined. When you work that into reality, it doesn't, we've had to make sure that we're aware that at the end of the day, the goal is not to get all the stories done, it's to impact the end user. And so, sometimes we just have to be flexible throughout our day-to-day and work week, that things will change. And so we've actually, we do sprints. We do have a build day where we set out, for amount of work, but we're just no longer as stringent as we used to be as far as hours to work and make sure we complete a sprint and something so it's more like a Kanban type of flow instead of strictly a Scrum.
Okay.
And so, and so the other thing that our team has done is we also So we oversee about 500 to 600 independent sites on campus, and what we've done is basically split our teams into half support and half like projects. And so half of the team is purely doing support, and that's like one of each role. So
does it switch off, or is it always?
Yeah, so we do 2-week sprints. For 2 sprints, one team is on projects and another's on support, and then they flip basically every month.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it gets everybody, to have to work with answering clients and customers and debugging stuff, and then also at the same time being able to focus in one direction for for a dedicated amount of time. HighEdWeb is a national conference, and it's got a couple hundred. I don't know the total number of attendees, but it's a great conference. Moves around every year. This year it's going to be in Milwaukee. Yep.
Milwaukee, the good land.
And it's a great time. There's 6 tracks, tons of speakers, and everyone brings out like their A game and the stuff that they've been working on all year for that conference. And so what they've done, because obviously they can only fit so many people, and there's a larger audience, and especially higher ed, like conference budgets have been cut, and or if people don't have any, they've started to fund and sponsor these regional events throughout the U.S. And so HighEdWeb Michigan has been a regional event for the past 3 years. This is the 3rd year. We were at U of M Flint, and then U of M Ann Arbor, and now we're at Wayne State. And so we're kind of just university hopping.
Northern next year or what?
Northern's a little far. I don't know what we'll be next year, but hopefully there is a next year if National lets us, and it will be someplace within the Great Lakes states, because we do pull people in from Illinois, from Indiana, Ohio. We had some people last year from Canada. This year we didn't have anybody from Canada, even though we're like legit down the street. But basically it's low cost. People can drive in. It's usually a day and a half. Ours is a day and a half, and we have a technical and a marketing track where we can get professional development that's within reach of most higher ed budgets.
Sure. So being the host university, is there anything that you hope attendees will go and see while they're on campus?
While they're on campus?
Yeah.
I hope that they at least stroll throughout campus. I know that, so because of where we're located in Midtown Detroit, we don't have like we have a conference facility, but we don't have like a hotel to hold everybody. So most of the attendees are staying downtown, and we have shuttles in between and stuff like that. So unfortunately, they can't just stroll at any time through campus, because it's I think it's like 3 miles or so to downtown. And so what I really hope, in addition to just what they can see of campus, is that they reframe what their thoughts are on Detroit. I think that Detroit has really changed, not only like in the past 2 years, but it's in the last 5 or 8 years. It's a whole different city, and so that's my goal, is to really show people who haven't been here in a while, or even if they're from around here, what the city is all about, and how what a vibrant tech scene there is, how many people are around, just the stuff that's happening here, and how accessible it is to just create. People can just think of something and create it. There isn't this big barrier to entry for stuff like there is in Chicago or New York. There's a lots of stuff infrastructure that's already there. In Detroit, there's a lot of flexibility, and this is the time to start making things happen.
There's always been tech talent in Detroit.
Well, yeah.
Now all of a sudden we've got got Dan downtown helping us out with a much more robust tech scene.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and he's a huge supporter of meetups and really local niche groups. And so what's great, because he lets those people host their events in his spaces, which are all nicely renovated, very Google-esque, and just provides the infrastructure to get people the tools to continue to evolve the city. Yeah. And so that's why I'm hoping that the attendees of HighEdWeb Michigan will get out of it that, we're in a really good spot, not only in the city of Detroit, but in Michigan in general, to affect change. And that, even if you're a team of one, you can still go out there and advocate for your end user, and advocate both technically or marketing wise, or whatever your area is, and make an impact for your your audience.
Sure.
Good.
Hey, I just thought of a question. What would you think the key challenges for the higher ed the web space in the future?
So my answer to that is really going to be like that. Probably everybody says this: doing more with less. And I'm both talking about budget-wise, but I'm also talking about less bandwidth, less screen resolutions, or screen resolution. There are plenty of Android resolutions out there, and really understanding how users are consuming data. I think that's the most underutilized area. Like with last 2 years, the big topic was responsive, and now is it today or like April 21st? Is it? That's tomorrow that Google is switching their algorithm to prioritize those mobile sites, because that's going to be, that has been really, and this is the stamp of approval on, like, that's the gold standard of a site now. You have to adapt to a mobile audience. And so I think that understanding what a mobile audience is the biggest struggle for higher ed. Most people think, well, a lot of the websites are done on a university web connection, like crazy huge bandwidth, and so image sizes and just number of requests and stuff like that weren't really thought about. And so if you're, in mid-Michigan and you only have half of a 3G connection, but you're trying to research colleges, or like a lot of, mid to northern Michigan, there isn't a lot of internet options overall. And so people legit might have a fast connection, but it might be metered. And so it's like you get 5 gigs a month for your whole family, or for 2 people. And so they're conserving how much bandwidth they're actually going to consume. And so there might be other reasons for making your site as efficient as possible. And there's plenty of studies, both Google, Amazon, Facebook have shown the faster that you make your pages, the more people will continue to click on things. So the more page views and the more interaction that you'll get over time. And so I think that's the struggle at this time, is really selling something that isn't visual. It's like speed. It's hard to kind of explain how that's going to affect the bottom line. And the actual responsive, to the point where this is right for this area of the home page or whatever. When somebody comes in on the page, I think we're going to get more adaptive user experiences. I think that are going to know if you're a real cold prospect compared to like someone who's been to the site a few times, or compared to a current student or on campus or whatever. I'm hoping that we're going to get a little more tailored experiences to that level.
So in that vein, Wayne State moved to a new marketing platform, like overall, right? Is that the
a marketing platform, as in,
or CRM, or
so we have and it's not completely ubiquitous throughout all of campus, but the admissions area and student service area, yes, they've moved over to Salesforce, and they do use Salesforce for their CRM system.
So is that some data that you're able to get for when it comes to leads and that sort of?
Yes and no. A lot of what we do from a front end web perspective is feed that data in as we gather it through like our form systems and through other areas of our site. Anytime somebody is going to be interacting with us, it ends up going down the road into Salesforce and with their record and stuff like that. And so since it isn't completely adapted throughout campus, that not everything is being sent through it. So that rollout is happening, and as that's happening, like, we're growing with the system. And so I think as that adoption grows, the interactions will grow.
So you pointed to rural areas and the digital divide.
Yeah.
How do you feel about some of the FCC stuff that's coming down, the net neutrality and the commoditization of the internet? You feel that it's generally positive, that it's going to lead to
I think I'm glad that it's getting more formal. I feel like, so I haven't done a ton of research around all of the different ideas, like all of the different avenues that it could be formalized, but I think I'm a proponent of it being formalized and having the discussions and having some sort of net neutrality. Like, everything should be equal, I feel like, but I don't know enough about it to like, I really don't feel like anybody should be in control of how fast or who or what that prioritization is. I think the user should be in control of that prioritization.
Sure. Well, hey, I think that's about as much time as Shane. He's getting antsy there, so thank you very much.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for talking, and I'm excited
thanks
for
for
what
having
you
us
guys are
here.
doing.
It's always great to come back down to the alma mater.
Yeah.
Fine school.